Void.
Tonight, the Blazing Pedals ARCA Series heads to Sonoma as we go left and right in Maple Valley. We're happy to have you with us tonight for this evening's coverage here on Green Flag TV. I'm just in Prince alongside the booth for today is Derrick Watson with Howie Pearls producing for tonight's coverage here from Sonoma. Get an interesting night of racing on the docket tonight, Derrick, as we get set to go road course racing after Father's Day weekend off. These drivers are ready to go do battle yet again.
Yeah, look at this, JPCC. That counts for tonight, 14 and 28. So 14 and 14, your two stages. And then we'll go all the way to the end of 66. Next week, we go to the old version of Atlanta before getting our last break for a while for the 4th of July for Independence Day weekend. And then Chicagoland, Kansas, the Charlotte Oval, and New Atlanta are up on the docket. What a great schedule that's going to be.
An interesting twist of racetracks, and Justin Levine so far coming into tonight is the one who's conquered the point standing. 17 points up. It's one of the drivers not here tonight, though. 12 races apiece for him and Dalton Kilroe in terms of entries. Then you have Taylor Butcher Benjamin with 13 starts with 570 points, 28 points back. Then it's an additional 22 back for Mark Arthur, followed by Brian Zimmerman in the top 5. Brian Dees, John Perkins, Chris Carroll also up in the top 8. There's Cody Gibson and Trevor Harmon also up towards the higher end of the standings this season. So far, the team standings look like this. Two Dudes Racing have had the most consistent runs in the team side of things, Derrick. 5 to the next car 2.
Yeah, remember, for the team format in Blazing Pedals, we take your best and worst finisher on your team. The team with the best average gets 1 point. So Two Dudes has done it 5 times. Pit Lizard 1 sim twice, and then Blackhawk, MFRD, and 5 Kings 1 time apiece. So that's a look at our points, JP. We're in the middle of qualifying right now. About 3 minutes left. A couple cars. Mark Arthur still out there, and a couple others still trying to get their runs in. Here's Mark JP going up the hill.
Yes, just taking a little bit of a slow run as he didn't get a great launch out of that corner. Right now in the 1:16.7s. That's right now in the ballpark to be in the top 10 for him on time. The fastest driver is Hunter Langes, who is up there, Langus, I should say, in the 1:16.192 range. This is the only driver running on track at the moment for the qualifying run, mind you. The rest of the field electing to wait to the end of the session here to close up qualifying.
Yeah, a few people left to go. Here is Mark now up through turn 8. Now we get head down to turn 9. This is the part of the track where you prepare for that big U-turn. It might be the most infamous, iconic turn on the Sonoma Raceway. Here it comes down through turn 10. Now that big, long straightaway. One of probably your best passing opportunities of the night. You really crank the brakes down here to turn 11. You make the full 180-degree corner. There's where the old pit roads used to be on the right. Then off we go. A little bit of wiggle. And I think he's going to be okay. I don't think he hit the wall there, JP, but that came close.
This time by, he did put up a slower time, by the way, 1:17.6. And that should just about do your qualifying session just like that. John Perkins is currently parked on pit road. So an interesting season so far when you break things down to the point standings with how things have gone as we've already seen earlier on. Who do you think is going to be the best in terms of this road course race tonight as these drivers look to conquer this racetrack? Mind you, it's the second road course of the season.
Yeah, well, the name that sticks out first, the driver up on second currently qualifying is Dalton Kilroe. And I think he has some good odds because a couple weeks ago on a Monday night on the High Tide Racing League, those ARCA cars went to Mid-Ohio. So he has some recent road course experience, as this Dustin Ping was in that race. So I think it's going to be different. We'll probably see one or two surprising names throughout the night, JP, who maybe are better road course racers and will kind of just, the cream rises to the top, so to speak. So I'd look out for Kilroe. I mean, obviously Lagoon set that fastest lap of 1:16.192. That's someone to look out for. The three question marks are Harmon, Moody, and Thompson, because they did not set a lap in qualifying. So we really don't know what they're capable of.
Yeah, we've seen Rick Thompson a bit in the league, seen Trevor Harmon, of course, regular here, Nicholas Moody. Going to be a month still starting towards the back with just 1,000 I rating when it comes to this style of racing. So, qualifying now coming to a close. Checker flag is officially out in session. Just waiting for the transition to be able to set up and go road course racing here at Sonoma. Different looking safety car coming out. How about a BMW now being lined up? It's Hunter Lagoons who is going to be on the pole with Dalton Kilroe in second position. Chris Carroll starts in third. Dustin Payne rounds out the top four in the running order. Next up in the lineup in row number 3, it's Cody Gibson, Mark Arthur with the Barbie car for Two Dudes Racing in 6th. 7th spot tonight going the way of Taylor Butcher Benjamin. Tanner Marr will start in 8th. Rounding out your top 10 starting spots from Sonoma, Matthew Kleinsmith and John Perkins in P10.
Going to move back into P11. That's where you're going to find Brian Zimmerman in that number 28 machine. And he's next to Brad Lawson back in P12. Back in P13 is Austin Derbyshire running a Grid Vision machine. He's next to Larry Bell, part of Five Kings Motorsports. Moving back here again into P15, we'll find Ty Marasco in the MFRD number 1 machine. He's next to Joey Neese in the 58 in that old Kodak throwback machine. 17th place goes to Rick Thompson on that Speed Mafia machine next to Trevor Harmon, P18. And then last on the grid is Nicholas Moody in the number 60 car. And that is a look, JP, at tonight's starting grid from top to bottom.
Top to bottom for the starting grid, just about ready to go for the pace lap here. Just waiting for the last of the two drivers, Mark Arthur and Ty Marasco, to hit the track so we can get pacing here at Sonoma. Now keep in mind tonight's race distances when it comes to the stages, laps 14 and 28 for the stages here at Sonoma. The overall race distance scheduled in sim to be 66 laps. So a 38 lap final stage should be expecting the potential of pit stops here.
Yeah, JP, what I was kind of wondering about this race today, and I was kind of pondering things to talk about and strategies for the race, and I wonder if someone will be willing to do the old NASCAR style strategy this before stage racing, before the breaks. And what that meant was basically you find out what your fuel tank is, you do the math backwards, and you pit as soon as possible the first time and just sort of run it dry. I wonder if anyone's willing to throw away the stages here, right? If anyone willing to just throw caution to the wind, pardon the pun, and just try their own little strategy. Maybe they don't care about the stage points and they just want to come out and win. And listen, with 19 cars on the track, it's possible you try that strategy and maybe you still get a stage point. I don't know, but I'm curious here. Now remember, no cautions tonight except for the stages unless there would be a total track blockage. So more than likely tonight, JP, the only 2 cautions will be on 14 and 28.
And this field just about geared up and ready to go. Talked about some of the potential for the strategies. What are some of the other keys you think that'll come in mind here tonight for this race?
Oh gosh, patience, right? I mean, this is a difficult road course, and I was, look at your times here that we set in qualifying a 1:16. That shows you how difficult this course is, right? That's not very different than what you would see these cars turn at, say, Watkins Glen, which is a mile, almost 3/4 of a mile longer than this track. So lots of uphills, lots of downhills. You have to baby the throttle tonight. You can. There's almost probably no point, maybe except for the run from 10 to 11, where you can really just kind of, cram your foot in that gas pedal. Patience, I think, is the key word tonight.
Just about ready to go for tonight's action here in Blazing Pedals. ARCA Series ready to roll here for this one. Once again, Lagoons who leads things off from the inside. It's Kilrow from the outside. Waiting for the green flag. Green is out. We're underway from California. We're wrecking up front. Kilrow spun the tires. 3 wide at the start and finish line. Dustin Payne made a pass on the outside with how much tire spin there was. Oh wow, Chris Carroll tries to jump his way to the race lead already.
All right, well, there you go, up through turn 2 now, over to 3 and 4. Wheel spin confirmed by Dalton Kilrow, by the way, has admitted he did it, so you were correct on the call there, JP. And now he is falling back through the field here, all the way back down to P5, and now down through the corner. Look at that car up, doing on 2 wheels, trying to keep these are 3 wide.
Still battling for the outside. Carroll has to give up the ghost for the lead, though. Slipping on through is Dustin Payne for the 4th starting spot. Going to jump to the point as they march their way through the S's. And that's the tough thing about this racetrack. You can only go side by side for so long, and there's a lot of areas where you have to be patient. This track, lap times, as said, only in the 1:16, 1:17 bracket today.
Right here, and I said earlier in qualifying, this is your best chance right here to make that pass down into turn 10 from turn 11. And this, we've seen many passes here. We've seen some bumps here in real life. We've seen some spins there in real life. But Dustin Payne is going to pull away in lap 1 and lead the first lap of this race.
Good start for him as they march their way on through. The Payne Precision Racing machine, amongst the drivers that runs a fair bit in the league scene. Seen him years ago. Has been a name that's been around a long time with the iRacing service. But Carroll, so far doing well with the Pit Lizard Performance Machine, looking towards some of the drivers towards the mid-pack. Ryan Zimmerman under attack. Moresco nearly running over the side of the 28 for a moment.
Yeah, and what I'm curious about is going to happen as this race progresses, as these tires wear. Look at all the drivers right now who are sort of abusing the curbs, right? Sort of like watching GT3 racing. And I think as this race goes on and those tires wear and, everything happens, that strategy that seems okay for the first couple of laps, you can't do that the whole race. You're going to make a mistake up on those curbs. You're going to spin the car around or make something really bad happen. So I know it may be the quote-unquote faster way, but it's definitely also the more dangerous way of what we're watching. Here's Brad Lawson, by the way. There's Rick Thompson back here in the field. So watching some good battles back here right around P12, 13, and 14.
The Speed Mafia machine taking some small pokes right there. No electing to dive on through, but up front for the race lead. Drivers now full pace. A little bit quicker was Chris Carroll last time by. Actually set the fastest lap of the race so far, but it's still very early. Mind the end sim time is past 3 o'clock with the double sun time. Things should speed up pretty quickly on the elevation here. The 27 continues to ride as well in the choo-choo train. Trying to get their balance back. Oh, well, Dalton Kilrow yet again under attack. Cody Gibson tried at high side. That was a little bit tight there, Derrick.
Very tight, JP. That was scary to see how close they were coming up against that wall, but they everyone backed out, got in line, and survived that moment. By the way, you mentioned that Chris Carroll was the fastest last time by. Last time by, he was the only driver in the 1:16s, so he is definitely running a good pace here. We'll see if that continues as this race goes on. Dalton Kilrow is back at the 4th, by the way. Now back to Rick Thompson back in P14, and watching him go through. And JP, this track continues to amaze me how difficult it is, right? And to me, it's probably the most difficult track of all the road courses that your top national NASCAR series goes to, it's so technical with all the uphills and downhills. There's so many blind spots in this course you have to be afraid of.
Yeah, a lot of areas where this track can catch you off guard, especially when it comes to, say, that run through 3 and 4. You have to memorize that section pretty quickly because it's so easy to be able to go off track if you hit the bit of the curving. Takes you offline, picked up a 1X, and takes you off into the barrier if you're not careful, for example. But a lot of passing opportunities here if you play your cards right. Turn 11's up for grabs, turn 6 up for grabs, we've already seen. Turn 2, an area a lot of people can also send it around here.
Yeah, turn 5 at times can also be a passing candidate. That's a little tougher of one to have happen. We're riding on board here with P5, by the way. I believe that was, so we'll continue to watch here. This is probably P3, pardon me, Hunter Lagoons. Watching hunters kind of make the passes. We're riding on board here through the passenger seat, if you will. And look at those RPMs, JP. They just don't really crank up, and already you look at that back on the brake so soon. I think that's the part about stock car racing that people don't get if you are maybe a road course racer. One of the biggest differences maybe between stock car racing on ovals and road courses is how soon you have to be on the brakes here.
Yeah, this car a completely different dynamic compared to some of the others, to say the very least, in terms of how to handle it. More of a Gen 6 feel when it comes to the road course racing, you would have to describe. So it takes a bit of an art form to make sure you do it right. It's not like the next-gen car where you're constantly having to fight with the grip, but also have a bit more tire width on your car.
Yeah, I mean, and Gen 7 car was, built with a little bit more of a GT3 mindset, so a little bit better on a road course. But here, again, you have to pepper that throttle. You have to be very careful with the handling. And at a road course like this, JP, where I can only think of maybe, 2 spots, maybe 3, where there's any kind of runoff on these corners. This track is very unforgiving as far as the runoff here. If you quote-unquote blow a corner here, you're off in the sand.
Meanwhile, something just happened, I think, to Rick Thompson, making his 5th start of the season. Jersey's already pulled out of the race as a result of a situation. So let's take a look at the replay. Have been up a few positions. Oh, there it goes.
Oh,
tire barrier.
I told you. Up on the curbs. You got to be careful with those. Those will get to you. So that's what happened there, unfortunately, for Rick Thompson. Dustin Ping to set the fast lap, by the way, but here's Joey Neese. Let's watch this replay. And that's all right so far. Just have been a little happy on the throttle, JP. You saw the car back around. Oh, there, that one's not okay. But no damage. Maybe it's a hurt pride. That's all that's done. All that's wrong with that race car right now.
And the tire's a little bit angry as a result there. Right now he is running back in 18th position as we run. But still, the leaders stay lockstep together here coming up to the end of lap 6. So far, Dustin Ping finding more and more pace as these tires come up the temperature.
Yeah, Ping did a great job. As we said, set the fast lap last time by, a 1:16.279. So you're right, more pace. That was, in fact, half a second faster than Chris Carroll back in P2. So here's the battle for first, second, and third. Ping, Carroll, Lagoons. Right here. Now, JP, I mentioned earlier about the road courses on the NASCAR schedule. Of course, we got Mexico City, you've got the Glen, you've got Sonoma, you got Coda. Hold on. That's Cody Gibson, that Cheetos car. And he's good. I was pondering today, JP, I think for most NASCAR drivers, in iRacing at least, if you had to rank these road courses, watch Cody Gibson here. Just going to get on the gas pedal a little too soon and whips it around. Maybe a little bit of help from behind. I don't think so. I think that was just a self-spin. But I was pondering to JP, for most drivers of NASCAR and iRacing, if you ranked the road courses that we visit on a regular basis in the top NASCAR National Series, do you think Sonoma's probably the least popular of those road courses?
See a little bit of help with the replay, but to answer your question, I don't know if it would be the least popular. It's been one of the main staples on the schedule since the 1980s.
Right.
I don't know.
But specifically for iRacers, though, do you think maybe that varies compared to like its use in real life? Because I mean, a lot of the other courses, the Glen, the Daytona Road Course, Coda, gets a lot of use across iRacing, through the Road Series and the Oval Series both. But this track really doesn't seem to, to really peek its head out on the road side of iRacing.
Yeah, usually only shows up when it's really on a schedule.
Right.
Basically, I know, but it's not bad. Honestly, in terms of racing as a driver, absolutely. I know people prefer Watkins Glen because the ebbs and flows are a bit more smoother you can have at the Glen. But to me, it's still more popular than going to the Chicago Street Course, for example, for a comparison.
Right.
I know that track's difficult for a lot of competitors with how tight it is.
Sure.
It's still a fun track. It's just difficult.
Yeah, I'll accept that. That's a good comparison. I like that comparison, actually. I think that's a great comparison of usage of the track, Chicago Street Course versus Sonoma and racing. And I want to be clear, I don't think that it's not that people, quote-unquote, don't like Sonoma. There may be some of those who don't. Hold on, let's watch this here, and it turns 10 down to 11. What's going to happen here, if anything? Nothing so far. A little bit of back in from Lagoon. He moved Chris Carroll out of the way, JP.
Trying to move him out of the way with the bumper. If anything, Carroll gained more time on the separation from him. 27 really backed it down mid-corner. So not too much in terms of that, in terms of the position chance, in terms of the moves there. So getting back to that conversation point, though, we'll say in terms of this, I know it's still, for some, a fun track for many others, as long as you don't go off track. It is the type of racetrack that challenges you, Sonoma is.
If I rephrase the question, is this the most difficult road course on the national NASCAR schedule? You compare this to really? I think this is by far the most difficult road course. I think the elevation. Oh, there's a little bit of an off course right there. A little bit of off-road rally racing. So I think the elevation changes with the blind corners and the blind hills makes this way more difficult than any other course we visit on the national schedule.
In terms of difficulty, I don't know if Chicago would be the most difficult. I think Coda is the most difficult.
Fair enough.
If you ask
Do
me.
you think both layouts of Coda are more difficult, or just the long version of Coda is more difficult?
I think both versions of Coda are a bit more difficult in terms of how you have to handle that racetrack, in terms of the stadium section in particular. There's a lot more technicality that you have in that last half of the lap in particular.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, one vote for the track, at least Bad Dog 101 out in the YouTube chat says Sonoma is my favorite road course that NASCAR iRacing goes to. So at least one vote for Sonoma out there. Maybe another vote right now is this battle here for Lagoon and for Chris Carroll. They might both like this battle because there's track, because they're having a fun battle here, JP. They've been all over the back end of each other. Lagoon tried, you want to call it a bump and run, but let's go back for a second. Watch Trevor Harmon just having a very difficult time.
Believe that he slammed the wall. Can confirm he did hit the wall in turn 5. And he has demolished the front clip, and that's why the car is dragging its way to pit road. Here's an air swing.
Yeah, watch this here. This is going to be him coming down through here. He is going to make it to pit road. In fact, live, I can tell you right now, he is already on pit road. There it is. Oh, right in the front end of that car. Who knows how much damage that car has. We'll wait and see how long it's on pit road. It's already been 25 seconds now. Here's Nicholas Moody, by the way. This is also a replay of him. He just wildly missed that corner. Thought for sure he was going to end up in the dirt, JP.
Yeah, I think he was just trying to let the leaders go, if anything else. You see right there, just takes it wide and elects to stop on the racetrack to let the leaders go.
That is a scary place to stop. And JP, that's an interesting talk to have too about road course racing. And I know we're getting close to the end of the first stage here, but that's probably the one thing that I think is hardest to teach an oval driver about road course racing is don't get out of the way don't move your lane. Be predictable and let the leader pass you. That's so different than the oval mentality, right? Where you want to maybe get out of the lane and let the leader have the fastest lane here. For road course racing, the best thing you can do is stay in your lane, so to speak, right? Stay predictable, drive your own line, let the leader pass you. Oftentimes in road course racing, and I know you know this, JP, when someone tries to get out of the way, oftentimes they end up more in the way.
Leader just pit. Dustin Payne just elected to pit this time by. We're coming around 4 to go in the stage, coming to 3 just about. So looks like they are electing to flip the stage here.
Yep, Dustin Payne wants to maybe try that old NASCAR style. Remember, back until stage racing, that when you didn't really think you'd have cautions at these road courses, a lot of drivers would do this. They would pit the first time the pit window opened, and then they would just kind of drive it forward. From there, here's Cody Gibson coming down in that number 7 Cheetos machine. So Brad Lawson, these drivers apparently just don't. I don't say they don't care about the stage points, JP, but they care about maybe moving forward.
Trying to see if they can get into track position. Of note, lengthy stop for Dustin Payne. He did not take the tires initially, had to roll forward for it. See the replay, what's happened here to Derbyshire.
Yep, see what happens to the Canadian of Derbyshire up the hill. This is up through turns 1. Oh.
Just rode the curb and spun it on out.
Yep.
Ended up losing traction in the mid-corner with that curb hit. And it looks like the rest of the leaders are peeling on down, coming up now to 2 laps to go.
Yeah, and I would think not too long from now. In fact, right now, as of this moment, if you didn't pit there, you're not going to, because race control closes pit entrances with 2 laps to go. So everyone who got in is good, but if you did not get in, you're not going to. That's going to hand the lead to Dalton Kilrow. He apparently is going to take the stage points. Now remember, in this league, you can file what's called a provisional if you're not going to be at the race time. There's a few drivers who did so. Jess Headley did one. They're out in YouTube chat. A couple others we'll talk about. Justin Levine did not file for a provisional. So right now, Dalton Kilrow is racing to take over the points lead.
It's looking very confident on that mark. Matthew Kleinschmidt wants the drivers looking good for stage points as a result here too. Mark Arthur is who he's battling with. Our way back from the race leaders at the top of this pit cycle starting. Meanwhile, Lagoons still keeping up with Carroll. They're still lockstep. No changes there between these two.
No changes at all. Lagoon right there, and Carroll, the same as it has been all along. Here's Derbyshire again back in P12. We're going to try to run it around here. Remember, when the leader crosses at the end of 14, so a couple more laps now, we'll have our first stage break, and we'll talk about that. Here's Dalton Kilrow. He is our leader by a good margin. Almost 8 seconds is his lead over Mark Arthur, JP.
Dalton Kilrow. Oh,
whoa.
He just spun it. Kilrow just spun it from the race lead. And the interval is cut in half. 3 seconds gap. Kilrow still going. Kilrow will still hold on.
There they are in that same camera shot. There's Arthur, there's Kleinschmidt. So they're going to come down together. They're not, oh my gosh, Kleinschmidt could not have cut that any closer. I thought for sure he eat that wall. But they're going to at least put a little bit of pressure on Kilrow. You saw for that onboard we had a Kilrow. You saw those hands kind of start to wiggle and shake and every which way but loose. And that's what happened to the race car.
So despite that slide, Kilrow looking to complete the stage here. So it's only led lap so far in the night after looking solid in practice earlier on. He looks solid in the race as well, just has not been in the conversation amongst the race leaders. But green-white checkered flag coming out this time for Dalton Kilrow. He'll take the stage by more than a second. Mark Arthur second, with Kleinschmidt in third in the stage. Butcher Benjamin and Marr amongst your top 5.
It is, and you saw Barney the flagman waving the yellow flag. Caution is out. Kilrow wins stage 1. Is Kilrow, Arthur, Kleinschmidt, TBB, and Tanner Marr your top 5, as you said, JP.
Rest of the stage looks like this. Perkins finishing 6th. Zimmerman, Carroll, Goons, and Marasco are amongst the top 10 in the first stage here in Blazing Pedals. So an interesting race so far here, Derrick. It's now going to get interesting how these drivers handle stage 2.
Yep, so there's a good number of drivers making 7th place on up. So Zimmerman, Perkins, Marr, TBB, Kleinschmidt, Arthur, and Kilroy, you think will pit right here and put tires and gas in after claiming their stage points. So this will be curious to see who does what in the second stage and who handles this better. Now we've all got a little bit of track time in, so we'll see what happens. Versus JP, is this catching the safety car? I mean, the pace car hasn't even left, right, because the Kilroy is nowhere near around. So the pace car will leave in just a moment. But catching the pace car under caution here, that could be the challenge.
Gotta love how the safety car has a race car style wheel in it.
Yeah.
Here at the road courses. I mean, this is the new pace. It's the BMW M2. It's a brand new safety car for this type of racetrack. I mean, it's not the generic iRacing car, but it's definitely creative.
Yeah, and listen, why not have the racing wheel in there? I mean, maybe not at a road course, but you and I have both called a couple races where the pace car was only a few laps down from the field, so to speak, So why not put yourself a little nice steering wheel in there and have some fun? But yeah, a beautiful looking car inside. Look at all the gauges. Just makes you want to push all the buttons in there, doesn't it?
Yes. It does make the engine sounds of GT as well. The one thing I wish they did, I noticed already with the onboards, animate the steering animations for the pace car driver.
Please. Yeah, that is an option in iRacing that drivers can have, is to either have your steering wheel or not have it visible, or some people have it visible but it never moves, and that's hard for me to watch. Not that I'm mad at them, it seems so unnatural in a way, right? So I agree with that. Well, remember, JP, looking ahead on Green Flag TV, that BMW M2 right there is part of a special race on July the 5th, Saturday, July the 5th. The FTR Troph.ai series is putting on an endurance race at Silverstone, and that car is one of the 4 classes that will be available.
Indeed, that race also featuring Cadillac that was focused on the pictures. You have the Porsche. I believe a Ferrari also indicated in terms of the pictures. Yes, in terms of the Ferrari 296 Challenge. So, Chris Carroll, much of the rest of the field will indeed peel on down for their scheduled service.
So 4 tires, gas, no games here, no tricks. I don't think there's any way possible anyone does anything less or anything different, than 4 tires today.
Yeah, it should be pretty standard in terms of the pit strategy. You can take 2 tires, it just won't feel great.
No, it would not feel great at all. I would be petrified going through this course with 2 new tires. And here's the thing, though, with some of those cars staying out, let's see who it's going to be. It's going to be Gibson, Ping, Lagoon, and Carroll going from 4th to 1st in that order. So Dalton Kilroy, who won the battle off of pit road, JP, he's P5.
So with that being said, we are in the midst of our second stage. We'd like to remind you that tonight's action for this series is brought to you by Ohio and Indiana Roofing, a premier roofing contractor. They are a sister company to the Bruns Construction Enterprise. We specialize in commercial and industrial roofing and are committed to accommodating the unique needs of each client and offering creative solutions to meet those needs. We are a team of individuals who work for the same common goals: professionalism, quality, and service. Services we offer include preventative maintenance, re-roof, new construction, infrared scanner, green roof solutions, metal, retrofit, emergency repair services, and more. Please visit www.oiroofing.com for more information.
Well, JP, I know we're going to be 1 to green, but it's a long 1 to green. So I was thinking, what if we talk to the driver who's going to restart P1? Let's go and welcome into the Green Flag TV broadcast booth, Chris Carroll. Chris, you're going to lead this restart. You've had a fun race. You and Hunter Lagoon's been kind of going back and forth a little bit. How's it feel out there at Sonoma?
Well, the car doesn't want to turn, and then it really wants to turn, so you have to be really careful on what you're doing with the throttle and the brake and just being consistent to keep it on the track. It's actually really tough to drive this car around here. It's really fun, but creates a lot of mistakes and probably some passing zones out here.
So what do you think is your one key takeaway from stage 1 that you could take into stage 2 and maybe try to make this a better race for yourself?
I think be more patient on everything. You know, you upset the car and it really, really hurts you late in the run. So I think just being patient with the car and letting it come to you.
All right, well, listen. Well, we're going to let you get back to it and kind of get locked in. Good luck on the restart. Good luck on the race. And maybe we'll talk to you later.
Appreciate it.
All right, we'll put him back down with 5 Kings Motorsports. And JP, I think he said it best. It's tough but fun.
And he's amongst those leading the way here, as said. Goons Payne, top 3. So with all the pace laps, the stint difference for some of the drivers up to as high as 5 seconds. Some of the others who were on that same strategy were so far back for the pace car that they didn't pass by Dalton Kilroe. That includes Cody Gibson and Brad Nelson that lost track position based on where they were on the circuit. So again, we're racing to about 28. Race control just stating that it's going on green once again.
Yeah, this is not a track with a restart zone painted, so we're going to wait for the green flag to fall, and that will be when Chris Carroll can step on the loud pedal here.
About to get back underway. About 10 laps to work within the stage. Back underway, and more tire spin for the second start of the race. Carroll spins the tires and nearly spins it out.
Well, for the second time, we've seen someone who is up front falling back to field. Luckily for Carroll, not that big of a fall, just from first to second so far. Kilroe's up to third. Look at this big dog fight up here out of turn 2. Now down into 3 and 4. They're 2x2.
2x2 they work as they try to rumble around the road course. Terrell Butcher Benjamin wants those picking up spots. Oh, wow. They try and single file out for the time being. Just trying to maintain a rhythm. That's the main focal point as Goods now leads everybody in the RRG machine. Looking to march his way forward here, gaining a little bit of ground here early on in this run as some of the yards back get to battling. Tanner Marr making a move on Mark Arthur.
Yeah, Tanner Marr's up around Mark Arthur. They're going to come down here through that corner and down this long downhill straight. You know, JP, I think coming back to that talk, and I'll finish it here with that, how difficult this track is. You definitely have to know this track right there. I think there's a couple road courses that were side by side up front. That was Dalton Kilroe trying to make a pass on the outside. There's a couple road courses, if you don't know them that well, I'd kind of, you know, maybe luck your way through a lap at a road course. It's kind of obvious where the track is flowing. This track here, if you don't know this road track, it would expose you very quickly.
Does open up a lot of wounds and a lot of weakness if you aren't good at left and right. Tom Marasco just parked it. So Marasco having some issues. He had been having an okay-ish night. He ended up going back down and staying in pit road in that restart sequence. Still keep an eye on Payne as he works his way forward and trouble over Derbyshire.
Yeah, that formed well before that. That right at the corner, that was turn 6 they were in, I believe that was, from the camera shot I saw. That was a little bit of chaos right there. A couple comments exchanged and a little bit of chaos. Watch this here. Derbyshire to the inside. Oh, he tagged him.
Yeah, I don't know if he had the corner there. He attempted it. He's seen a door open. Door closed fast.
Very fast. By the way, of note, we saw a couple cars earlier. Rick Thompson had some trouble. He's retired from the race. Nicholas Moody not in the race. Ty Marasco, by the way, was the first car out of the race. So 3 cars of the 19 have already called it a day here at Sonoma.
Now the incidents are starting to stack up for some. Nice just served at Pelony. Derbyshire just lost even more time. He's nowhere near the pack. Chris Carroll up in second. Of note, Kilroe did also take third recently to be able to take that away from Dustin Payne. Still keeping an eye on the 97. Oh, that was near barrier for the 27.
Yeah, those barriers come up quick on you here. You really can't flirt with those things. You can't tease them. Like, I know, like when we raced at the Glen You can sort of avoid that bear at the last second out of turn 1. But here, they creep up pretty fast on you. You really got to be careful making that move here. So we're watching Chris Carroll, the driver we talked to a moment ago. Again, he was having so much fun. You could hear it in his voice. He said it's challenging, it's fun, it's difficult. It's not like he was having a blast, but hey, to come up here and lead this and now still be in P2 after spinning your tires, that's a good day's work.
Kind of shows the speed of him on average being so good here. The top 5 grouped together, by the way, on this run. Kleinsmith's keeping up. Payne we're on board with. See them working with the digital dash quite through the gears. You see how the revs play out as they try and shuffle gear to gear.
Yep. Watson, they're going to go up the hill here. This is Dustin Ping. It's going to go down here. A little bit of a downhill dip to make a left-hander. Now a right-hander up a hill. And that uphill right there, that's scary, because if there's something happening down this downhill right here, you wouldn't know it going up that hill and making that right-hand corner. So, very scary moment. JP, I was wondering in my head, by the way, we're already getting close to the end of Stage 2 because of the caution lap. Stage 2 shorter than Stage 1, and then, of course, as we documented, a very long Stage 3 to the end of the race. I'm not sure if anyone pits here. I mean, there's limited tire sets in this race. I don't know that anyone's going to feel the need to pit on this very, very short Stage 2.
Yeah, I'm not sure. We do have a 75% fuel tank, mind you.
Right.
So if they pit, it's going to be for grip, if anything. It's going to be for trying to get the tire advantage. There is a bit of a tire temperature buildup point I've noticed out of these drivers today in terms of their fastest laps coming to right now in some cases. But there is some bits of fall off around this racetrack after a few laps. So might be just trying to utilize the tire sets as they can. Mind you, they had 4 sets of the pits here today.
Yeah, so what I'm thinking though is, with how difficult passing looks to be on the track today, I might stay out in this caution, on the stage caution, is move myself to the front. Everyone's going to have to pit again at some point. Like, no one's going to make it to the end, even if you pit here at the end of the stage. So we'll see who has what strategy and who makes what moves here. We're working lap 23, only a few more to go before that yellow comes out again. And boy, look at the hands of Matthew Kleinsmith just to the very left of that screen. Watch how much they kind of seesaw back and forth as he goes around these corners.
Just trying to keep up with all the motions and keep up with the racetrack here. That's a critical thing, making sure you don't lose track of everything. Look at that in front of him. Payne taking the stand, uses a little bit of the door, a little bit of the nudge. Kilrow, though, better run off and has the inside corner for the next 2 turns. Will we give up the position, or will he fight it for the high side? It looks like Kilrow tried it, but Payne does get the pass made and oversends it instead.
Oversends it. Yep. Way overshot. Oh boy, he came back in front of the course there, in front of Kleinsmith. But Ping had a great run there. That was the right set of corners, I thought. I thought that Ping was going to end up sort of ahead, just the way the ebb and flow of this track for what little it has, and then just overshot it a little too far.
Meanwhile, checking in with Brad Lawson. Right now, Lawson in the top 10. Right now, 13 seconds back of the leader. Once the drivers that attempted to flip the stage, right now, just trying to fight to keep up with Arthur.
Yeah, Brad's doing a great job. Brad, by the way, let's come back to that. We'll watch Joey Neese first. Remember, he had an issue in the first stage where he got that car a little turned around, a little loose. Going to come up the hill here. Going to head into that corner. Touches the curb a little bit. And around he goes for the second time.
Another spin for the 58. He is laps down now in this race. Top 2 have now checked out with the battle that happened for 3rd moments ago. And these 2 seem to be the cards to beat with how things are going right now. Some of the other drivers are keeping decent pace, but they're right now as much as 2 seconds off the pace of the race leaders, like Taylor Butcher Benjamin.
Yeah, they are. You're right. I mean, I don't like to use iRating as the factor. You and I both know that iRating is not the end-all, be-all of judgments. But if we can move back up to the front for a second for Hunlagoon and Chris Carroll. It's no surprise both of them almost 5K iRating on road courses, and it shows right here why. Just the way they're navigating this course, the way they're navigating the corners. Sometimes, even if iRating's not the perfect system, it does kind of, even out at some point and shows you who's better and or at least more experienced at road courses.
Yes, indeed. So as they continue to rumble on, coming up now to what will be 3 to go in the stage. No indications of anybody flipping the stage yet this time around. Kleinsmith, long time in the iRacing service, just being able to lockstep together right now as they rumble their way through the course. Some of the others towards the rear, looking like this. This includes, so far, the 33 of John Perkins. He is quietly doing well for Two Dudes Racing. The average would be really good for Two Dudes. It'd be about 8th where they run. Fastest lap for the 27.
Oh, not surprised he's out front, right? When he's the fastest lap consistently, and do that, you're probably going to lead. And that fastest lap was a half second faster than Chris Carroll. A 1:16.0 versus a 1:16.6 for Chris Carroll. So you see that's a little bit of gap there. The unfortunate news for Lagoon, that gap kind of doesn't matter, JP, because we're only a couple laps away from restacking the field for what's likely to be the final time here. So for now, just trying to hold him off, just trying if you can maybe score those stage points. But again, still a great run. Still, Lagoon is doing a great job. Here's a replay of an overtake. This will be Austin Derbyshire. Comes deep into turn 11. And oh, that was not an overtake. That was just him passing a pitted car, I think. Here's Larry Bell, by the way. Gets up on the curbs. Boy, those curbs right there in that same corner, JP. How many drivers have they bit?
Pit stop window is open. It just closed pit road. 27 and the 97. Both flipping the stage yet again. Brad Lawson also attempting to flip the stage, peeled on down pit road, but apparently he ended late. They closed pit road just before they got to the start and finish line.
Yeah, Brad Lawson not happy with race control and not happy with the penalty. And that's entering a closed pit under green. I know the system says end of line penalty at the top of our screen, JP. I do not believe that's an end of line penalty. That's under green. That's going to be a hold of some kind for Brad Lawson.
Yeah, he's going to be, and he was committed to that pit entry, mind you.
I agree.
So he just came out.
Well, he came in out of a 49-second pit delta. It's not much longer than the rest, but I don't know how you get to end a line under green. So we'll see if we can investigate and figure it out. I don't know. I may be wrong, but I don't know how you end up with an end of line under green flag conditions. So we'll wait and see what comes out here. But we're now working lap 27. Remember, the end of 28 is when the stage comes out, or when the stage caution comes out. Again, Dalton Kilrow is likely to win this stage, JP.
Dalton Kilrow looking to finish out stage 2 up front. So far, he's been in control for the end of these stages. He's been faster this stage. Being the conversation, Dustin Payne, interesting enough, did not flip the stage in this one. So he'll keep up with the front runners with Kleinsmith as well. Some of the other battles you see on screen stay single file.
By the way, real quick, just want to note, race control has went ahead and cleared the black flag for Brad Lawson, so no penalty would be the call. I guess they understood maybe he was committed.
Kilrow just spun off the racetrack. Kilrow just spun it from the lead for the stage.
That's the second time he's done that.
Dustin Payne drives on through. Here's a look.
Up on the curbs, got a little unsettled maybe. Comes down through the left-hander. JP, is this the same part of track he did it last time?
Different spot.
Okay. But wow. Big power slide.
Cost him the stage. Dustin Payne just took the green and white. Yellow flag is out. Kleinsmith, Kilrow, the top 3. Gibson and Butcher Benjamin in the top 5. Behind them, Arthur, Perkins, Zimmerman, Goons, Carroll, in the top 10 on track as they run. So Dustin Ping gets a stage win as a result of that mistake, Derrick. Big taking advantage of that, to say the very least.
Yeah, great job by Ping. You're right, take advantage of that. Good news for Kilrow, though. Still only P3. So despite that big power slide, only lost a couple of spots. Obviously, those could matter later in the year. Points matter. We've seen that happen many a times across different leagues we commentate on. But good news for Kilrow to be bound in P3. So Dustin P is going to run around here and try and find that BMW safety car. Likely our last caution of the night, JP.
Final caution of the evening here. And this will spark the safety car. Roll its way back onto the racetrack here. And now it's going to get interesting how the rest of this goes, because it's basically more than half the race to go here, Derrick.
Yeah, now in a way you could almost say now the race begins, right? And depending on your mentality of how you look at it, you really could say this is when our race begins. Here is our 30-some lap race to the end, because these first two have kind of bunched the field back together. Not a common thing, of course, of most road course racing. So maybe you take those first two little sprints, you treat them like F1 sprint races maybe. You treat them like little science experiments. What did I learn? What can I take away? And I say, okay, now the race has begun.
It's going to take a while for this whole field to catch up to the pace car. You see half the field is half the racetrack back here. It's been difficult to set up passes, I've noticed, Derrick, throughout this race. That's the tricky thing. Getting actual moves set up seems to be the major thing for a lot of these teams.
Yeah, I mean, that's not a surprise, I don't think, right? You and I talked about the 3 or 4 corners where passing was possible, and it's not that many. If you can only name 3 corners out of 11, maybe 25% of the track has a passing opportunity. And that's assuming you set it up correctly. Very rarely do you kind of spring into a pass here. You have to really work at it. You have to kind of set it up, make it happen, build that momentum, and get it going. So that's why you look on top of the board here. I mean, only a couple drivers really have any kind of movement. I mean, Matthew Kleinsmith's up 7. That's maybe the biggest mover of the day. But a lot of drivers just up or down 1 or 2 spots.
So they roll into pit road for the service. Derrick Butcher Benjamin, Dustin Ping just rolled in. Butcher Benjamin did not flip the stage. So Butcher Benjamin staying out on old tires here, Derrick.
Yeah, I'm not thoroughly surprised. It's going to be a difficult start for him on those older tires compared to the rest of the field. But as you said, everyone needs to pit again. And you and I keep talking about how important track position is. So I'm not surprised at all. But rather than guess about what's going through his head, let's just ask him. Let's go ahead and bring in the driver who's currently at the front of the field. Let's welcome into the Green Flag TV broadcast booth, Taylor Butcher Benjamin. Taylor, you don't pit here under caution. What's the strategy?
Well, I mean, we got to pit a few more laps anyway, and I mean, yeah, it's kind of a gamble, but figured I'd try something here just to get out front and see what it does. I mean, I think I had some decent pace in practice, but I think I'm just driving a little too conservative. So maybe if I'm at the head of the pack, I can be a little more aggressive. But I don't know. We'll see how it works out, I guess.
Well, so now, in a way, this is sort of, quote-unquote, when the race begins, right? No more cautions. Now we just go from here to the end, here to the finale, if you will. So what have you learned in these first couple stages? Is it just about how difficult it is to pass? Is there any other takeaways you have from our first 2 stages?
Well, yeah, it's definitely difficult to pass, and as I'm sure you've seen from the initial start and the restart, you got to get what you can early, and so establishing the track position is very, very important, and you're going to see it again right here, I'm sure. And
I'm sure.
So just all that, and just the simple fact of stay on the racetrack.
All right. Well, listen. My last question for you, a little bit of a lighter note. We got the Rick and Morty paint scheme. We've got the SpongeBob helmet. So I feel just required to ask, what is your favorite cartoon?
Well, I guess SpongeBob, and that's Family Guy's up there too, and I did used to have before the new next gen car came out, I did have a Family Guy scheme. So there you have it.
There you go. Well, listen, good luck the rest of the race. Maybe we'll see you up front as the night goes on.
Yep, hopefully.
All right. Thanks, Taylor. There's Taylor Butcher Benjamin. We'll put him back down with Team MFRD. Well, JP, he sort of echoed what you just said a second ago, which is that passing is difficult.
And he's going to try and see if he can keep the track position here. See how he handles those on the fresher tires next to him. Or those who flipped the stage. Tanner Marmine, who also flipped the stage, but did not pass by all the cars, believe. He is actually going to be on stars at the outside. Looks like they still are having to sort this out. Yeah, wow, that's how far back they were. Yeah, they're on one to go.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. I'm like, wait, that's almost not fair to the Lucky Dog. You might want to, I hate to say delay the green here. That's a heck of a long, it's what, almost a 2-minute pace lap here. But, I mean, Joey Nice will maybe be, up, through the uphill.
So we're coming up to what will be about 45 minutes, give or take, of pure racing to go in this one. So it's Butcher Benjamin, it's Lagoons, it's Carroll, it's Marr in the top 4. Ping, Kleinsmith, followed by Lawson, Kiro, Gibson, and Arthur. The rest of the running order. And they have to line up pretty quickly here. Lagoons is slow on the gas, trying to make sure he lines up for the start to the green.
Well, we're going to go on the green. There is no restart zone. For the first time tonight, JP, I do not see wheel spin.
But Taylor Butcher Benjamin did not go. Goons makes the pass high side. And Derrick takes the lead. Dustin Payne slipping, sliding. He is spinning. Around goes Lawson with him. 2 cars scatter on the outside of the corner. And now they will lose all the track positions. Butcher Benjamin is getting uprooted.
That was Tanner Marr, I believe, up ahead of him. And boy, that looked scary, especially with the old tires. I got really nervous what was going to happen there. But now Marr's up to P2. That's Butcher Benjamin in 3. That's Chris Carroll back in P4. And then behind him is Kilroe. Kilroe is the first driver on the newest tires.
Trying to take his time after some of the slides at the end of the last stage, remember, to be able to make some of these passes. You see some of those various pit laps on screen. Right now, Butcher Benjamin's difference compared to the rest of the field, 10 plus laps. See how far he can go on the fuel tank here. Coming to 33 laps to go. Looks like everyone lining up quick. Deeper braking zone. More confidence for Carroll. Kleinsmith also has the confidence to go on through.
This maybe in a way is our best racing of the night on a consistent basis here, JP. And I think it's maybe due to the tire strategy, who has and hasn't taken tires. But a lot of good side-by-side racing happening up and down the hills. And they go up the hill. That's TBB. That's Kleinsmith's going to easily make the pass. And unlike the pass we saw earlier, Kleinsmith does not get super loose out of the corner.
Yeah, nice and steady for Kleinsmith. Almost looks tight. That was car's handling right now. See those stiff lanes on screen where some of these drivers right now amongst the top 4. Some of the spread upwards of 3-4 laps with the pace laps working around Sonoma. And the tough thing's now going to be trying to make sure you stay focused up for the next 30-40 minutes or so to make sure you are ready to go for these battles here. It's going to be a straight-on battle with the elements of the racetrack.
Yeah, that's what you're almost battling in some ways, and that's the key of road course racing in some ways. But let's go back and watch this start again. This will be focusing, I believe, on Dustin Ping. This is that last restart we saw a couple minutes ago. Watch Ping here. Is just going to get really loose going up the hill. So look now to the top side of your screen, if you will, as we're now the left side of the restart. Already losing pace right here is the 81 up the hill, 3 wide. Made a little bit of contact with Kilroe. Kilroe got away clean, but Ping and Lawson did not. Interesting
to say the least there. But Bit of a bobble for some of these drivers as Carroll tries to find a way around Tanner Marr. That is a teammate for him. One of the 5 Kings Motorsports machines just holding on. The separation between first and second, already 2.4 seconds, Derrick.
Yeah, not a surprise. I said earlier I thought there'd be some drivers who excel at road courses, and that would kind of show itself out to be who is where. But Tanner Marr right here, going to get passed by Chris Carroll. That'll put Carroll up to P2. That was a powerful pass on the outside of Carroll.
He actually cut through some of the sand to be able to finish that job that time as Kleinsmith slips his way through. Marr drifts on the rear tires, fall outside the top 3 just like that. Still 1-2 for 5 Kings as Goons is also racing with them here tonight. Good for the 27. It's going to be interesting if the 97 and 59 now get the chance to chip away. 1:16.9 last time by for Lagoon.
Yeah, and you got to remember, we looked at those team points at the start of the show. 2 Dudes Racing had done it so well, but if you're a 1-2 finish for the team, that's going to be your best average. This team, 5 Kings, looking to maybe go ahead and grab themselves a team point as well as some great driver points tonight. That I get nervous every time they come that close to that wall.
Tough thing is, some of the other drivers in that grouping, Brian Zimmerman, for example, is back in 13th in terms of that average potentially. So some of the drivers, Larry Bell, who's off track now, he's also back 14th. So there is some at the back end of that team metric. They're going the opposite way. Speaking of some of the battles, you look at one, John Perkins, Austin Derbyshire. Perkins just trying to cradle these curbs in the 2 Dudes machine.
Yeah, just trying to do as best you can, and you're right. That's the part of that team points. Is even though they're 1-2, it's they kind of hope their teammates can kind of find their way through a couple spots and make it work. So we'll see what happens there. But here now, again, this is on a screen battle. But you've seen the timing for Lagoon and for Chris Carroll. It's about 3.25 seconds almost is where they stand here. And so again, from here on out, folks, no more cautions are planned. There's no more stage breaks. There's no more jumping the field or jumping the field back together. From here, it's what can you do inside the race car. Larry Bell has also called it a night, by the way. Larry Bell, our 4th retirements of the evening.
I was just about to mention that. Did see him pull in the pit lane a little while ago with troubles. Looking like Dalton Kilroe now trying to make a move forward. Kilroe with the MFRD grouping of drivers. And Kilroe seems to be doing solid once you give him a rhythm, but it's been the last lap of each stage where he's made mistakes. Should be a little bit less pressure to be able to drive around this track here in stage 3.
Yeah, of course, it's a longer stage. Who knows what will happen when he gets right around to that lap 14 marker. I just wonder if it's him pushing hard on the end of the stage, if it's just about the point when, I don't think it's the point when the car wears out, because they were very differently linked stages. So I think maybe it's just the nerves gets to Kilroe in that moment. Here's a pass right now. That was Dustin Ping. He's back in P10th after those issues he had on his restart, trying to work his way back to the field.
Able to slip his way. Kilroe on the outside, making a move and moving up into 4th position. Still less than 3 laps to go here in Sonoma as we continue to rumble. And now it becomes the question, how long can these cars actually go, you think, here tonight, Derrick?
Yeah, that's the question, right? And we'll see probably a little bit of variance just because of who pitted before the stage and after the stage, or didn't pit at all. I think it's right around 21 laps. So you'd think the first person to pit, I would think, was got to be like Tanner Marr or Tanner Butcher Benjamin. They last pitted on 26 and Butcher Benjamin, sorry. I can't read. Butcher Benjamin pitted on 17, so you think he'll be pitting right around lap 37. That's not too far from now because we got the caution laps in. But then we'll see when he pits, and that'll help us kind of give us our measuring stick of fuel run.
So we continue to see these drivers try and stretch forward and stretch around. Butch Benjamin looking at 6th position. The Rick and Morty paint scheme. so far looking like they're very close to the pit window and will possibly have to put an extra time here if the estimates are correct. Kleinsmith, meanwhile, last time by was a tenth and a half, near 2/10 slower than Chris Carroll. Grid Vision machine trying to gather it up for one sim to chip away the gap a little bit more to have a chance on ascend here in their Chevy. Speaking of Grid Vision cars, Austin Derbyshire just had a spin. Derbyshire had been running in 11th and has just looped it. You'll see him fall down the pylon on your screen. Let's take a look. It's been a bit of a rough one today, dealing with damage on the front end as well, for good measure. Turn 5 has been a challenge for him today. Already getting the rear tires angry. Just slides on the exit, overcorrects, hits the barrier, and Derbyshire has to use all the runoff area to turn the car around. Joey Neese, meanwhile, he is not having a nice time. He's already towed to the pit lane.
Remember, Joey's had an issue in the first couple of stages, and it's going to be a different part of the track this time. It's going to come down here. Looks to be an okay run so far, but there's flirting with the line. There it is. It's kind of waiting for this moment. We know it's coming. You know what? I think that's just maybe just be Joey Neese throwing in the towel here, JP, because I mean that's. But with respect, that's not a hurt race car. That means to be a driver who feels overwhelmed, who feels defeated. Sometimes when you come to a road course and you're not used to road course racing, and especially in these stock cars, man, it's so hard. Like, and it'll just suck the positivity out of you. It'll suck that happiness. It'll suck out all the energy you have, and it takes every ounce of you not to just want to quit, tow it to pit road, and call it a night.
Looking at John Perkins, by the way. Right now he has Dustin Ping on the recovery drive right on behind, ready to make things work. Butcher Benjamin just came to pit road, and it's going to be tight for them the rest of the way on the fuel mark. 10 made it 23. Remember, the estimate was 21. So TBB may have to go an extra time here to pit road.
Yeah, that's going to be the challenge, right? I mean, we said 23, but there was that, that long caution in there, so it may only be 20. Who knows? We'll wait and see how all these drivers fare. Again, everyone's going to have to pit at least one more time, because the last drivers pitted right around lap 27, so they're going to pit right around maybe lap 48, 49, maybe 50 at the most. So no one is done pitting here by any means. Here's Dustin Ping on track. He's now getting around that 33 car and is trying to run down, I believe, to be Hunter Lagoon. Is that Mark? That's Mark Arthur pit. I apologize. I saw the pink back in. I got my correct idea. That's the Barbie car of Mark Arthur.
Yeah, making quick work of the first two dudes racing machine. Ping slips and slides. The MFRT machine will pick off the second. Just nice and smooth, and it just shows just how comfortable Ping is with this race car right now through these corners to be able to just slice and dice quite easily.
And it shows you the confidence and the patience Ping has. Remember, he fell well down the field after that last restart when he made that contact, and him and Brad Lawson were going around right about here on the track and had to make that recovery. So Ping is doing a pretty good job so far this evening. Ping right now is officially down 3 spots from where he finished, or from when he qualified, pardon me, but he's up multiple spots compared to where he was after that spin. So I'm going to come back and talk about, oh my goodness, that car up on 2 wheels. Talk about a little bit about NASCAR road courses. And I have this theory, JP, we talked about maybe road courses being difficult for NASCAR drivers, especially on the iRacing service. And I think it's because if you only race ovals, you're sort of prepared, or you're sort of just taught to despise road courses. And I think part of that comes from just honestly how not fun it is to drive a stock car on a road course, right? There's plenty of more fun vehicles, a GT3, a GT4, heck, even like a Toyota GR86, an LMP2 can all be a blast to drive around these road courses. But, I think people who don't do it just don't understand the difficulty level that it is to drive one of these cars around this road course consistently for 66 laps. And when it's so difficult to do and it seems so just insurmountable of a task to complete, it really does kind of make it not fun. And that's why I think a lot of oval drivers just really despise and avoid road course racing.
Yeah, for me at least, as a driver, my thought is I am struggling to turn right. I just struggle to hit the braking marks, usually struggle with the gears. It's a psychological battle with the car. It takes a lot of mindset, and it's like, I remember all I can say through some of the races back in the day was, the car feels too loose. Just kept on slipping and sliding everywhere.
And it's so counterintuitive to what we learn as oval drivers, right? Because watch these guys all night long here at Sonoma. What are they doing? They're touching those curbs. There's not an oval out there for the most part that you and I can think of where it's okay to touch that bottom part of that corner, right? Touch the bottom part of the corner at Talladega or Daytona. Touch it at Texas. Touch it at Charlotte. Get those wheels down there on that, below that line and see what happens to you. We're taught not to touch that line. And all of a sudden here, it's all about relying on the curbs. It's so counterintuitive to what we learn.
Dalton Carroll just set the fastest lap of the race, by the way. He is within a second of Kleinsmith. It's the 41 starting to knock down the times, 1:15.9. First time we've seen a time go down that low here in this race.
Yeah, that means he's getting comfortable. That means probably the temps are dropping as we're getting now up into about 5 o'clock virtual sim time. So Kilroy is starting to lay down some laps. The other thing that's not maybe intuitive for some oval drivers, there's the track temp. See, it's coming down a little bit. And JP, this isn't consistent. I know as an oval driver, you're supposed to drive at 2 feet. But there's a lot of oval drivers who learn to drive one-footed. And then you come to a road course where a 2-foot driving style is required. And that can also be like, teaching a new language to some drivers.
See the track temperature right now on the bottom side of your screen, by the way. Right now, 97 track temp. Already in sim time past 5 o'clock. So by the time we're done, should be around 6, maybe near 6:30 in sim, if that. So it's getting pretty cool out. Here, in terms of those conditions for the track, more grip means more speed.
Yeah, not a concern, by the way. We're in the middle of June, so this is not a concern, but it sort of chuckled to myself and thinking, boy, it's already kind of late at the track. Now, time in sim does accelerate at double speed, but, there's no lights here, guys. So let's not make any big cautions or track blocking wrecks, because finishing in darkness here would be no fun. There's no lights, no headlights. It's be a guessing game. Now, again, that's not reality. That's just a weird, quirky thought in my head. But I don't know.
Yes, indeed. So coming up to 21 laps to go for the leaders, by the way. Right now, the leaders running half a second to 0.6 off some of their personal bests from early on in the race. Mark Arthur and John Perkins are the other close drivers, and what's that team communication like? You have to wonder amongst these two where they just remain in sync.
Oh, I mean, depending on how good of a driver you're on road courses, it might be silent, right? A lot of drivers, maybe, I don't want to say aren't talented enough, but maybe don't prefer to talk while they're road course racing because it's such a different beast. I know when I'm road course racing, the last thing I can do is talk, because if I'm reaching my finger over that button, or if I'm putting my mental thoughts in the words I want to say, that's mental power I could be using into focusing on the track. So some drivers get way more quiet on the road course. You only talk when you have to. So that team communication could be one of the quietest it's been all year long.
New fastest laps yet again. Dustin Ping just set one. And I find it intriguing. This is almost working like the old tire model, where the car gets faster and faster. Some of these drivers that are setting these lap times on these tires, well, Dustin Ping just pit for recent. But for the lead, Chris Carroll sends it inside. Dives it alongside, lunges. Langes trying to make the move back on for the inside. Side by side for the race lead. Langes
that
trying to
would've
clear.
been
Carroll sends it, licks the stamp, crossed over for contact.
Beautiful crossover, except for the fact he got up in the dirt and wiggled that car loose. But that's been a close battle from basically from the start finish line all the way up through the hill. Now they're up through the left hand, or the right hander, then the left hander. And low contact almost right there between the two. And I thought Lagoon was going to get right in the back of Chris Carroll. Boys up in the air again on too tired.
So Chris Carroll holds on to the race lead. Langes' tires starting to get a little bit angry as they move on. Mind you, as mentioned, Dustin Payne had a 6.8-second pit stop previously. Here's a look at the lead. Once again, talk us through this fight.
A beautiful run here through that big U-turn. And this was that battle I said was really close. Watch him at the line here. Had this been the race for the win, look how close it would have been, right about there. Now up here through turn 1, up through turn 2. And this is the moment right here where Lagoon could have probably sealed the deal with this crossover. Just a little too deep though. Touched that dirt, got the car wiggled, and from there had a little bit of trouble.
Here's an interesting strategy to think about, by the way, amongst these leaders now. Fuel only. Previously, Dalton Kilroe up front as pit stops for the race leader. This is the pit entry for Carroll.
Let's watch it here and see what's going to happen. He's going to call it right here. Yep, he's going to call it. So is Lagoon right behind him. So they're both going to pit here. And go ahead and take that moment right there. We're going to want to keep an eye on this here. We'll stick with this battle and see if something happens on pit road that is of note. Carroll, I believe, would be the further down pit road. And they take this long ride. This is a very long, slow ride, JP. When you're, even for a road course, you're not as fast as you are at some ovals, but this is still a very long, difficult road. There's Carroll, there's Lagoon, there's through the, no, that's not through the, so I apologize. Thought he slid too far.
Look at the difference on strategy, though. Left side's only for Carroll, it looks like. But it appears to be 4 tires for the 27.
That I'm willing to bet, with all due respect to Chris Carroll, JP, is a mistake because he stayed there and took gas, right? And so the typical mantra we talk about when road course racing is if you're going to sit there and take all the gas, why not take the tires? So we'll wait and see how this plays out. But this is back to live action on the track. They're back down to turn 11 once again for Lagoon and for Carroll here working the end of lap 48.
They were side by side for a moment. Carroll just recently making the move for the outside. Just now rides on behind the 4 freshies in his General Tires. Lap time's ticking away here quickly here. Right now these drivers working around under 20 laps to go. Coming around to 17 next time by at the stripe. Putting on some fierce battling. Go ahead.
Sorry, you're up and say it's funny you used the phrase, laps are ticking away quickly. I think that depends on who you are right now, right? If you're, these two guys right here, if you're Carroll, if you're Lagoon, laps are ticking away pretty quickly. If you're someone who had some trouble tonight, had a hard time at a road course, maybe a Trevor Harmon, a Joey Neese, maybe even a Brian Zimmerman in the back of the field, this thing can't be over fast enough. It's very interesting perspectives what you have here. That was Dalton Kilroe, by the way, pitting from up front. So he's now down pit road a couple laps later.
So, yeah, right now just trying to sort things out here. Near contact. Able to avoid it. Kilroe coming out of pit road. Kleinsmith continuing on to the racetrack as you mentioned. So they stretch things out right now. The net lead would still, after the cycle, be to Kilroe, because Kilroe just came out with a 7-second stop compared to the 15-second pit stops for the 97 and the 27. Kilroe was the net leader.
Yeah, Kilroe's going to be the net leader. Now, the interesting thing will be, if Kleinsmith and Arthur, they last pitted on lap 31, so you think they're coming in just a moment or two here. Then for Carroll, lap 48. For Lagoon, lap 48. So yeah, this is going to be very interesting to see how this all lines up once everyone cycles through.
So now they're going to have to fight big time to be able to gain up some ground. Kleinsmith just entered pit road as well. Looks like pit stop time for Arthur. Perkins going an extra lap here. That'll elevate Perkins to the overall lead. Kleinsmith stops in the box. Looks like another stop and go. 6 seconds in the lane. Perkins drives on by. Kilroe drives on by. Kilroe still remains net leader. Kleinsmith net second. Oh, Chris Carroll is knocking down faster lap times. 1:15.7 last time by. The downside is he'll have to close up a fair bit of interval. The interval that he needs to close up at the moment, right now about 4.5 seconds at the moment.
Yeah, and I just don't know how possible that is, right? I think the phrase you used tonight that I like the most is you're battling the track, right? Don't worry about battling the car in front of you. Don't worry about that gap. Just fight the track and do what you can. And either you're going to get there or you're not. If you start worrying about that gap, if you start worrying about the 4.5 second run or however big or small it may be, and you start to push harder, oftentimes more mistakes can happen. So even though I think this 4.5 second gap will be nearly impossible to overcome, as John Perkins has now pitted, by the way, and Dalton Kilroe takes the lead, who knows what will happen. But Kilroe now back to the front. He'll lead another lap.
Kilroe up in front with Perkins already getting shuffled down to third. That just shows how far back some of these drivers were in the midst of this pit window. Looks like lap cars going to the sand trap, but no issues. That was Nice once again off in the sand. So obviously the road tires here are a lot more different than what you would expect if you're able to take a no tire stop in some of these cases, or a 2-tire, and set the fastest laps like some of these drivers just did.
Yeah, that has been sort of the theory. Of course, oval racing for a while with the stock cars on a road course is that you don't always have to take tires. Sometimes those tires behave better warmed up than they do brand new. So a lot of times you'll see drivers not take tires if they can help it. So that's an interesting story to follow and see if that ever changes when maybe iRacing keeps updating a tire model. And what happens? My goodness, Dalton Kilroe saw those hands wiggling super hard. There, now we're on board with Matthew Kleinsmith down into turn 11. And all seems good right behind Dalton Kilroe. Words of Matthew Kleinsmith. That was close.
Yeah, Perkins sent in a little bit on his entry. Kleinsmith had to check up for Kilroe a little bit as well. So John Perkins completing his pit stop service right now will close out the pit window. Butcher Benjamin is the only major concern on the fuel notes. With less than 14 laps to go, Kleinsmith is spinning it. Kleinsmith's off the racetrack. Carroll just avoids contact. The rejoin sees both him and the 27 zip by.
Yeah, that was Lagoon also passing by as well. Let's watch it again here. Kleinsmith is trying to kind of keep pace with Dalton Kilroe, trying to keep him in his front mirror, in his front window, and just wiggle that car a couple times really hard. Everything he could to keep it off the wall, which he did. But this rejoin got scary right about there.
So they all get lined up as a result, and now they have to close up 3.5 seconds. They are knocking down the time. Kilroe, last time by with his wiggles, had fallen to the 1:18s. So these cars are chipping away, closing up these deficits. 13 laps to go to be able to close it up. 3.3 seconds now.
Well, you're right. I thought that 4.5 may be too much, but you're right. Lap by lap, they are catching Dalton Kilroe. Chris Carroll last time about 0.6 of a second faster. So, take a while on a road course to make it that kind of time he needs to. But if you're doing it 0.6 of a second, that means within about 5 laps, you should be up to the leader.
Right now, they are just knocking down the time. Len just not having the grip, though, in some of these corners. Just trying to battle the race cars. They separate out by a minute. Let's take an opportunity, if we can, to see how things look on the onboard. You see just how much Langes just holds onto the race car. The amount of elevation that Lange is dealing with while trying to keep up in this fight. Right now, still within 4 seconds of the leader. Chris Carroll is now within 3 seconds of said leader. Last time by was a 10th quicker than Dalton Kilroe. Coming up to 10 laps to go. Next time by Derrick.
Boy, and a lot of times we talk about the word consistency on a racetrack, right? When we was watching that onboard for a lap there and you watch Lagoon, and the consistency was just maybe how much those hands kept moving out of turn 11, right? It seems like that was very, very difficult to get that car settled, as Lagoon now uses all that runoff up there. Does a great job of that, but that was one thing I noticed. I mean, obviously through that cool shot, you got to see some of the elevation changes. You got to see kind of how fast some of these corners come up on you and how fast you have to get around them. But I thought the interesting part was just how much those hands are moving around. Typically in an oval, you and I would say that typically the more your hands are moving, probably not having that great of a night as an oval racer, but as a road course racer, that hand movement just happens all the time.
Indeed. 10 laps to go here from Sonoma. About 10 more minutes of racing. Racing for almost an hour and a half so far. In terms of the overall time, by the way. Very buttoned up. Everyone's separated out here for now, but that battle for the lead gonna get interesting by the end of this one. Chris Carroll, fastest lap yet again, 6/10 up. Payne is damaged. Something's happened to Dustin Payne. Let's take a look what happened to the Painster.
Down into turn 11. This is that big U-turn. Up on the curb. Seems okay. Oh, got a little close to the inside. Comes up out of the corner. Doing okay so far. Up to the start-finish line. In the wall. That car just never turned.
Something bad. You know when that hit to the tire barrier, that little scrub to it? I'm 99% sure it broke the axle because that thing was swaying down the straightaway.
Now watch it again. You're right. Yeah.
Just then bite after the contact with the tire barrier. Here's another look. Might be going through the barrier. Yeah. It broke the axle right on the inside of the hub.
Certainly did. It's a great call, JP. That's exactly what happened. And there's that vicious hit to that wall.
Trevor Harmon now lap traffic. Going to hold things up a little in terms of this replay. And what does he do? Well, the best thing you could do is just go onto the grass and wreck yourself, I guess. Not the best thing to do, but he is having a day.
Yeah, sometimes you're just having a rough day, having a bad day, and it's just bad to worse. Well, who's having a good day is Hunter Lagoon. He's up in P3. He, of course, started in the pole tonight. So, hey, listen, if you start in the pole and you're only down 2 spots to a P3, having a pretty solid run here. He's got that lead chopped down, by the way, to only about 2.5 seconds from Dalton Kilroe. Only about a second behind the car in front of him. So, doing a pretty solid job. That's the difference from Kilroe to Carroll right there. That's the car ahead of Lagoon. Oh, Lagoon locked it up a little bit. You can see he's trying, JP. He's trying. He knows the laps are ticking away pretty quickly here. He is trying to get up there.
Something is, there's only so much the car is going to give. 4/10 lost with that lockup. Carroll's gap is under 2 seconds now for the race lead. Under 8 laps to work with. Kilroe took the risk to hope with the track position working out for this reason. He hasn't made any mistakes this run. A lot of weaving for some of these cars now as we take a look at Arthur. Right now he is trying to battle with Cody Gibson a little bit.
Yeah, Arthur here in a very iconic number 12 Barbie car. We see him race here Sunday nights in the Blazing Pedals ARCA Series League. We see him race Saturday nights in the SRA Nash Classic League. So that paint scheme just kind of stands out wherever you race, doesn't it? You can see him all the time. He's got Cody Gibson right up ahead of him, who races in the Cheetos car in both as well. So these guys very familiar with and possibly very much in love with the ARCA car. But you know what? Coming back to what we saw a moment ago from Lagoon, JP, you know what I wonder? When you see someone lock up their tires that heavily into turn 11, what I wonder is, do you think he has some kind of information? Is he staring at Dalton Kilroe's lap time? Does he know what he needs to make up? Is he pushing too hard? And sometimes when you get drivers who get fixated on the numbers, they say, I got to push harder. I'm getting closer. I'm getting closer. And that's how you have those little moments of lockups. It's because you just think you have to push harder than you should.
We're just staying green, green, green with all the chip away for Carroll. Coming around, 6 to go this time. Still falling on board with 3rd spot. Goon eats a lot of curbing as he continues to close up as well. Last time by quicker than Carroll, actually, in terms of the pace and the rhythm. Now the tough thing's going to be once some of these drivers get up there, whether it's for the lead or whether it's this one in terms of Arthur's battle, it's going to be able to make the, if they are able to make the pass, that's still going to be the most difficult thing, is actually making the move.
Yeah, making the move will be difficult. We talked about that, how hard it is to pass here. So even if this is the battle between Arthur and Gibson on track, we're still tracking the bottom of your screen, the time gap between the leader and P2. But this battle right here, you see from the front of Mark Arthur, you're right, even if he gets up to the back end of Cody Gibson consistently, what did we name off earlier? 3 spots where maybe you can pass. This is one of them right here, coming down to the turn 11. He would have to dig in here super deep, brake really late, and kind of hope to dive it in there. And he almost thought he was going to. Here he is. Here's the moving Gibson. Oh, a little bit of bump, and we're good.
A little bit of a bump in the vein once again. They stay holding on for now in terms of this fight. Oh, a bit of a slide, and there goes the 7. Gibson's front tire doesn't grip up. Just on snaps around. As he goes sliding into the gravel, into the dirt.
This will allow for that pass to happen easier, of course, if you're in the dirt. So we'll watch this moment here. Whoop, that's a little too far to the right, got a little loose. Around goes Mark Arthur. But I got curious about what was happening up front here. Dalton Kilroe, Chris Carroll. This is now closed up now to within half a second. Remember, one point you said, JP, was it 3, almost 4 seconds? And I thought it was impossible to catch him. Well, I've been proven wrong by Chris Carroll. Lagoon, by the way, Lagoon has required repairs. Now that car's hard in the wall. That may be the same issue we saw at a Dustin Ping earlier. Yep,
that
there it is.
Absolutely demolished him.
Worse.
Even worse, he drove into the barriers straight on.
Yep, and then tried to keep moving. Watch that. Yeah, that right front tire is just turned. That cambered to the... Wow. Oh,
That car does not look happy. That car destroyed on 2 different axles. Quick tow. And now that takes him right out of contention with less than 5 laps to go. Carroll on the chart. He was 0.8 now quicker than the 41. Can he make a move quickly, or is this going to be a bit of a fight here? Kilrow fighting for all he can to hold on. Carroll much deeper in the brakes, has to go high to avoid him.
that's a very high to avoid him. I think sort of, let me use a weird analogy, JP. We kind of get ourselves a little bit like maybe like a Martinsville situation here. What I mean by that is the laps are ticking down, and I think Chris Carroll at best gets 1 shot at making this work, right? You're going to get 1 shot, and maybe not because it's a bump and run like you would see on a road course. That was like Cody Gibson we just saw the big smoke out of. I'll come back to my story in a second here. Watch this replay of Cody Gibson in the 7. Just on around, and he's okay. Just got it parked sideways and got it moving again. But what I mean by being a Martinsville opportunity, JP, for Chris Carroll is I think he's going to get 1 shot to pass Kilrow. He's going to get 1 chance to make that move, whether it be a bump and run in 11, whether it be maybe really digging deep into the trying to steal the inside of a corner. I think he gets 1 shot to make this happen.
One opportunity, if that, here, and he's losing ground all of a sudden. Starting to deal with some dirty air, possibly. Coming to 3 laps to go. It's chip away 0.6 to be able to get up there. He's been much better in the deeper braking zones compared to Kilrow in this later stage.
Yeah, he really has. I'm super impressed with Chris Carroll. I thought that number was insurmountable. I was proven wrong, and I'm happy to be proven wrong by Chris Carroll. See how much better Kilrow gets out of turn 11 than Carroll does? Kilrow just gets up here and kind of creates that run up through the hill here. Boy, this just seems almost maybe impossible for Chris Carroll.
Spent all that time chipping away, and all of a sudden, tires just started fading away from him. It was faster last time by overall, but the interval just keeps growing and growing and growing. Carroll has picked up the pace. Carroll's tires technically are 2 laps older, but remember, that's not factoring in with the fuel only for the 41 machine in terms of their pit stint.
So I think what would have to happen here basically for Chris Carroll, JP, is it's going to require Carroll to kind of keep up there, keep in Kilrow's mirror, and it's going to require Kilrow to be the one to make the mistake here, right? There's nothing Carroll's going to do. See if he can spook Dalton Kilrow, maybe get a little close, or just kind of remind him, hey, I'm here and I want to pass you, and maybe Kilrow slips up somewhere and Carroll can get on around.
We've seen each of the last laps for stages here today. Does Kilrow slip up and do a similar thing? 2 laps to go. 2 more times around here from Sonoma. Carroll just biding his time to be able to try and figure things out. Kilrow a bit quicker in Sector 1, it looks like, compared to what Carroll's doing with his slip and sliding.
Yeah, again, I almost forgot about it. You're right. Maybe the story is how much Dalton Kilrow has messed up both those 2 stages at the very last lap or 2 laps to go of them. Does he get a little nervous, get a little excited about the win? Does it happen again? Is he able to hold on to the car? But now Carroll's closed the gap again. He's trying to keep up in that rearview mirror, trying to make his presence felt. I don't think Carroll would put the bumper to him. He just kind of wants to, menace him by being in complete view of his mirror.
Do have lap traffic ahead. Brian Zimmerman is just up the road. And Zimmerman moves up to the high side as far out of the way as he can. Tries to stay out of being a factor. Kilrow's played the stages both times here tonight. He'll see the white flag as the race leader. Final time around, the gap almost 1 second. Kilrow just needs to keep it clean, have no mistakes, no slides. He's had issues on the final laps of both end of stages tonight.
Yep, he had a moment. You see, that's a lapped car in the back, by the way, so that car is not going to play a factor in this finish. Now being behind the leaders. But right here, there's a couple shots left for Carroll to make the move. I think it's too late. I think he had his chance. I think it's probably now it's too late. And there it is. That's going to seal it. Carroll's in the wall. And that may even let Kleinschmidt on by. We'll wait and see how bad the damage is.
Gap still big, 7 seconds. It's not going to be enough for Kleinschmidt to get there. Carroll just needs to wobble it on home now, but Kilrow can just about do it the same way. Kilrow able to keep things smooth here tonight. He had pace. It was just a matter of getting himself to the front at the right times, which he tried on strategy several times over. Played the strategy game once again and got the edge. Checker flag coming up. Dalton Kilrow gets the win. He gets it done at Sonoma.
Wow, what a great run by Dalton Kilrow. Went ahead and just made sure not to make the mistakes of the last time. But let's go back and finish this battle right here. This is Mark Arthur. This is TBB. This is the battle on back. This is for 4th and 5th. Down through turn 11, and TBB is going to seal it off, I believe. But Arthur's going to try, but nope. It'd be Butcher Benjamin taking home P4.
Looks like he'll hold on. A little bit of a nudge at the line. Arthur tried it. Try to get that for the 4th spot. Look at this.
Yeah, watch it again. You're right. There was a bit of a nudge. It's going to come just here over towards the end of this corner here. Not much of one, just enough to try something, but not enough to, wreck him.
Good effort to hold on by TBB. Also, Darbyshire, the only driver not to finish here. He's still coming across the stripe. Will come across now, so Kilrow takes his time to celebrate. Let's take a look at your race results tonight while he works on it. Kilrow, Carroll, and Kleinschmidt, your top 3 tonight. TBB and Arthur, the top 5. Marin, 6 with Gibson. Perkins, Zimmerman, Lawson, your top 10 here from Sonoma.
We're back into P11. That's where we would find our next person on the board. That would be Austin Darbyshire back in P11 with Hunter Lagoons. Remember, he ran and grow all night. JP had that damage at the end, 4 laps down. Dustin Pings in 13th. Trevor Harmon, Joey Neese, Larry Bell, Ty Marasco, Nicholas Moody, and Rick Thompson round out a 19-car field. Not to look top to bottom at tonight's unofficial results.
So Dalton Kilrow gets to celebrate the victory here on Green Flag TV. Good run in the very end. He led the most laps, actually, with 24. To be able to come away with the checker flag and really capitalize on points. With Levine not here tonight, Derrick.
Yeah, I think this will put Kilrow up in front, I'm pretty sure, when all is said and done. Wait and see when that comes out later tonight, but you see Dalton Kilrow burning it down on the front straight. Not the biggest area of this track or anywhere that's fun and safe to do burnouts, but he's finding a way to do it and kind of put his own little signature on the track.
See him attempting it. He'll just park it. And now gets to tow it to go off to virtual victory lane. Just waiting for the drivers to make their way now to the Infield Care Center and to the victory lane celebration here, Derrick. It was a good race tonight overall here in Sonoma.
Yeah, a very good race, a very clean race overall. A couple bumps here and there, but, I think no one really that upset coming out of this race, which sometimes you never know how road course racing can go with different experience levels. But pretty good race. Everyone tried really hard. That was a really awesome moment to see, and congrats to them. But I think now it is time for you to catch up with tonight's race winner.
Yes, it is. Dalton Kilrow gets the win here tonight. Dalton, how's it feel to get the win here at Sonoma?
Man, I had to work for that one. I knew Carroll would be closing up on me with those fresh tires, and I just had to hold on, hope he burned his stuff up and would make a mistake, and eventually that's exactly what happened. So just glad to be able to hold on, and thank God I'm done with road course racing.
Now, what made you decide to take the no-tire strategy here in this run?
During the first few stages, I could tell towards the end of the run, I started, catching back up to Carroll and to the 27. the 81. I was starting to close in just a little bit, and my tires never felt really bad towards the end of those stages. So I figured if I could keep enough speed in the car to just maintain the tires and not make mistakes, then that was going to be enough to hold on. And sure enough, that's exactly what happened. So it worked out for me. Almost didn't, but it did.
Next time out, we go to Old Atlanta. Your thoughts on going old style when it comes to the Atlanta Motor Speedway?
Love that track. I feel like in this car, it's not going to be as great as I want it to be, or as I expect it to be. But it could, anything can happen. There's going to be a lot of draft involved there, so we'll have to see just kind of how everybody wants to play it. I'm probably just gonna focus on doing my thing and hopefully can stay up towards the front and capitalize if somebody else makes a mistake.
Any shout you'd like to give here tonight?
Well, I got to thank the rest of MFRD. We were a little light tonight. It was myself, TBB, and the one of Morosco. He was having some computer issues, so he had to bounce early. I think his frames were dropping to like 20 in the middle of a braking zone every time. So hopefully he can get his computer stuff fixed. We also had Dustin Ping in there with us, so was fun battling with him for a little bit before the restart crash at the end of the second stage. That was unfortunate for him. I knew he had really good speed. Obviously, I got to thank you guys for doing the broadcasts. Ohio and Indiana Roofing, Blackhawk Motorsports, Five Kings Motorsports. I got to thank Hilton Crafts and Designs and everybody else at BPL for making the league what it is.
Congratulations on the win here tonight, Dalton.
Thank you.
Dalton Kilroe gets the job done here tonight. Chris Carroll comes away in second. He is with Derrick.
Well, Chris, if there was an award for most time gained on track tonight, it's got to be to you. At one point, I think you were 4.5 seconds back, and I was skeptical you could close that gap, but you really kind of buckled in, focused in, locked in. What do you think led you to close that gap and get really close to Dalton Kilroe?
Well, the 29 car was a lap car and blocked me through the S's. He didn't like what I said in the Discord about some stuff a few weeks ago, and the 10 car is Dalton's teammate. He blocked me on old tires early in that run too. Probably cost me 7 or 8 seconds total. So I don't like the team racing stuff like that, but it'll come back in full. That's we race people how they race us.
Yeah. Well, tonight looks like you had fun. We talked to you after you won the first stage. You said it was difficult but fun. Is that still your summary after the finish of the race?
Absolutely, Derrick. That car, I mean, you had to wheel it, especially when the tires aged, and it felt more like tire heat more than wear. When you really had to run it hard, you could make some good lap times, but it seemed like you could cool them down a little bit and go at it again. But I'm not sure if it was wear or heat, but it made it pretty hard to get to the throttle up off the corner.
All right. Well, next week we move from road course to classic 1.5 mile racing. We're doing the old non-super speedway style version of Atlanta. What are you looking forward to there?
That will be a fun race. That place, we all know, we've been around there, how it handles and how tough it is to drive. It's a driver's track around Atlanta. I hope they kept it the same as it is. I hope they didn't update. I haven't run there in a while, but that is a track that you'll see multiple grooves. You'll see a lot of stuff happening there, Derrick. I think for the broadcast, I think you guys are going to have your work cut out for you and probably have some fun too.
Oh, I'm hoping we do have some fun. Well, listen, great job tonight. Anyone you want to say hello to or give a shout out to?
Yeah, I always got to thank Brian Zimmerman with USAFirearms.com and Tanner Marr for getting me into all these leagues. Without those guys, I would have never done any of this. So give me, these guys here at BPL for giving me the platform to race and giving us the platform to do what we do and have a lot of fun here. Thank God Dalton won a race so we don't have to hear him whine about something this week.
Fair enough. He'll find something. Don't worry about it. Well, Chris, great job tonight, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks, Derek. Appreciate it, man.
All right, Chris. That is Chris Carroll finishing P2. And now we're going to catch up with Matthew Kleinschmidt, the 1-7 driver with the Grid Vision logo on his car, finishing P3. Matt, a little up and down night, but at the end of the day, you come home with a podium. Talk us through it.
Yeah, I race on iRacing about 90% of the time on road races, so I thought I had a chance tonight. Then practice and qualifying, I didn't seem too fast, and then during the race, I just got faster as the race went on, and kind of blew it there, slid off the track when I was trying to go for P1 there towards the end.
Well, overall, a pretty wild race, a road course that's not used very often, I think. How much before tonight had you actually driven on Sonoma?
I don't like Sonoma, so I try to avoid it. But as I said before, I do a lot of road racing, so once they're kind of all the same once you figure them out.
Fair enough. Well, listen, great job tonight in the P3. Anyone you want to give a shout out to or say hello to?
I'll give a shout out to Grid Vision, and that's it.
All right. Well, listen, great job tonight, and we'll see you next week at Old Atlanta.
All right, thanks.
All right. Well, JP, that wraps up our podium interviews for the night. Sounds like the drivers in some ways are surprised about the results. Is anyone else?
Yeah, an interesting race overall, but in the end, most of the field does get to finish this one out. After what was a tricky one for some to start. But we go to Atlanta next time out. Your thoughts on Old Atlanta for these cars?
Oh, it's going to be fast, right? And I agree with Dalton. I think it was Dalton who said, I hope that nothing much has changed about it. You see, they're Old Atlanta before we get our last break for a while. So it can be really fast, probably really slick. Probably a driver's track is what we're looking forward to. 196 laps around Old Atlanta 1 week from tonight.
See that once again next weekend, Sunday, same time, about 7:30 p.m. start time here on Green Flag TV. But it's time to say goodbye for today's action. For our producer, Howie Burrows, for my co-announcer today, Derrick Watson, I'm Justin Prince saying so long to the rest of your evening. You've been watching Blazing Pedals and its ARCA Series from Sonoma. Congratulations once again to our podium finishers in Dalton Kilrow, Chris Carroll, and Matthew Kleinschmidt. They get the job done here in California.